Welcome back to the newest edition of MyCase Monday. I've logged into my demo account of 8 a.m. MyCase. We always start on the home screen. So we're going to navigate down the left-hand side of the menu to accounting. Now we're on bills and expenses. We land on the bills dashboard. There's bills, client expenses, and vendors. Bills represent upcoming expenses not yet paid. Client expenses are items you've already paid and you were going to bill these back to your clients. And then vendors are whoever third parties you've paid money to. So on the bill screen, that's what we're going to focus on today. So let's start here in this top section with filters. Initially, when you arrive on the screen, this is just a list of any item at any point that you've queued up into this section. So any unpaid bills, whether that's for the firm or on behalf of clients. This is going to be the section, if you have in the past used a different accounting program, this section would correspond to your accounts payable. Bills that you're going to pay, expenses you're going to pay that you have not yet paid. This just is going to list out all of the items that you've queued up into this bill section. These filters let you sort through this because now this is a demo file. So there's only 4 bills in this section, but you can imagine over time, add 4 or 5 a day for a week, that's 20. And this will explode with lots of data very quickly. That's why these filters are here. If somebody would ask you, hey, how much do we have that's not yet been paid? You can go into this bill status and you can say overdue and apply the filter. Now we have 3. So if this list were 100 long, you'd end up with 3 items that are overdue. It will tell you quickly the total amount of the invoice and what's still currently due because you can make a partial payment. So for example, this Printers R Us medical records expense, the total invoice of $500, but it appears that $250 has already been paid and $250 is remaining. So you could go in, you can clear the filters. You could say, okay, what are all the bills that have been paid? And select that. Now, you can also use multiple filters at the same time. So you can say, in the last 7 days, how many bills have been paid? And when I do that, nothing. That's what these blank lines mean. If it's the gray and white alternating rows with the circles, that means that nothing met this criteria. So I can clear that filter and come back to the full amount. And then maybe you only want to look at bills with a due date that are today or in the next 2 weeks and apply that filter. Maybe you only want to know the bills that are related to a very specific general ledger account number. So if I go into the account filter and type rent, these 2 pop up as bills. So I'm going to clear the filters. That's how the filters work. And this is the same as what filters work on other sections within MyCase Accounting. Based on questions I get from law firm owners and bookkeepers, I would love to see a filter by vendor or add another one that's similar or really probably closer to this one that would list out all the vendors. And then I could just type in a vendor name, hit apply, and it would just pull up all the ones for that one vendor. Bill status, that helps, but I struggle a little bit because unpaid and overdue are mutually exclusive items. If you're unpaid, it's unpaid. And I'll show you what I mean right here. If I do unpaid and apply the filter, nothing comes up. That's not really true. If I clear the filter when overdue, I have 3 items that are overdue. So unpaid would include the overdue. It would just be everything not yet paid. But overdue, once it flips into past due, the status changes into overdue. These will only be filtered in the overdue. I think that's a little clunky in my mind. I think I understand from a coding standpoint why these function the way they do. But from a user perspective, I don't think these are mutually exclusive. If it's overdue, that means it's unpaid and you have not yet paid it after the due date. Okay. So that's a little clunky to me, but I would love to have on here another filter for vendor. Now, when we get to the vendors page, I can look up what I'm looking for, but if I'm on the bills tab, there's times just based on my personal experience, I've been doing bookkeeping for small businesses for 20 years. And I've owned my business for 20 years. And I've been working with law firms for over 15 years. I just know what people ask of me. And I love these filters because I don't use another program on a regular basis that has so many available filters. So I do love the filters, but even adding vendors would help me answer questions faster, which is really my goal, right? So that's how this works with the filters. This list here is going to list, now it's rows per page. Like we've talked about this before, where there's the rows per page that you want to show on each page. I want to clear my filters, bring all this back. Okay. And then in text size, we can increase our text to up, you go up to and down to. And then within here, so again, if something's hyperlinked, and you know that because it's blue text, and when you hover over it, it has an underline. If you hover over the hyperlink, it will take you to that item. So we're in the vendor column. If I clicked on landlord, it would take me to the landlord information. We have dollars, edit, and trash, and details. Dollars is we are going to record the payment. So we want to pay this one today. We're going to pay by check. We're saying we're going to pay it by check because it's going to bump out the additional information so that I can print the check now, or I can save it to print later. And the address didn't pop up, but that's probably because landlord is a vendor, is not set up with an address. It's going to populate the next check number. And I want to just pay in full. If I check the box pay in full, it defaults and adds the total outstanding amount as the payment amount. This is the check layout set up in the company settings. If somebody ordered the wrong checks and you forgot to change the settings, you can change where the check prints. The check's either going to print at the top or bottom. Once you have reviewed all this and you're like, yep, I'm all good, I can stick the check stock in the printer now. Or if I have a batch, I'm paying a whole bunch of bills at the same time, I can just save, and then it'll save in the queue that I can print later. If I'm paying 10 checks, it's easier to put 10 checks in the printer, submit them all at the same time, and let them print all together. I'm going to uncheck pay by check because I just want to post this. I don't have real check stock. It's not a real company. So I don't want to mess up my printer. Now that I did that, this now is paid. Prior to paying this bill, I only had one item in this list that was paid. Now we have two. So that updates that the total amounts doesn't change, but the amount due is now 0. Now you'll notice that this $sign went away. This one's unpaid, so I have a $sign. Now I don't have a $sign because it's already been paid. I print the check and then I realize, oops, it wasn't $1,000 run. It was actually split between rent and utilities. So I can come in here and just say November 25 rent was $750 and utilities were October 25. Utilities for $250. Okay. And then you just update this, and that updates how it gets posted to your general ledger, to your books, which is important because that's how it will update on your profit and loss statement. And then if I made a payment and for whatever reason, maybe I paid this check and it was a duplicate, or something crazy happened, or this is rent and maybe the payment wasn't 1,000, maybe it was only 100. If something was keyed in wrong, you can hit delete, and then it's going to ask you to confirm, and I'm not going to, but that's how you can delete it. And then details are just, hey, I want to know some additional information about this bill. So it'll pop up and give you this tab. There's 2 tabs here. There's journal entry and bill payments. It defaults into the bill payments tab, and it gives you this information, the date of the payment. Now it's defaults to online payment because I unchecked the box for check. It tells me what account it was going to come from, or what account the payment was issued from, the current reconciliation status. So it was issued today. It did not clear the bank today, so it's uncleared. Once this check appears on a reconciliation and the bank account clears, this would change to cleared. Here's another option to delete if I need to. I can flip the tab to journal entry, which bookkeepers and accountants will appreciate. Sometimes you need to see the debits and the credits. Okay. And I get, for most law firm owners, you have no idea what a debit and credit is, and that's perfectly acceptable. There's no reason for you to know what that is, but sometimes I just need to see the journal entry, the debit, the credit, the ins and outs, the T accounts, going back to basics for bookkeeping. It helps if something happened and something posted wrong. It helps me to be able to look at the journal entry to figure out how to fix it. So that's all this is for, but this is just informational. Okay. And then the last part, so we've now talked about the filters, the items within the dashboard, the different statuses, and the actions you can take over here. The last thing that we can do on this page is add a bill. Now you have two options. You can add one bill at a time. It's easy enough to just go in here and fill out the different pieces of information. And when you hit submit, it'll pop up. So if we do, I keep doing landlord. So let's do another one. So we'll do doctor's office and we'll do Dr. Smith. And now there's not a Dr. Smith in our files. So we're going to create a new vendor name. You can't type into that box, but if you click the edit, that now pops up our vendor for Dr. Smith. And you can fill out all the information that you have. But if I do 123 Main Street, Suite 100 in Cleveland, Ohio, 44114, United States. You can fill out any of the information that's in here. I have some clients who are very meticulous and fill out every single piece of information, and that's great. And I have others who, in the interest of time, fill out only the things that they need to. There's no right or wrong answer. The information's there if you want it. Personally, email is usually a good thing to put in here, and phone number. But cell phone, fax number, who faxes anymore other than those that have to fax to court or to the IRS? Not necessarily a popular thing. And then I keep track of this stuff separately. I don't track within MyCase or any other bookkeeping programs, but this is for whether you need a 1099. In part, why I don't use this is because of the way this box is, okay? Because it's just a checkbox, 1099 vendor or not. And that it's great how it's set up. But my fear is that I will forget to do this, or someone on my team is going to rush through and forget to click the box correctly. And I don't have an edit to know that it was correctly checked or unchecked. So 1099 vendor, sometimes people misread it and misunderstand what this means, but this box is meant to help you track if you're going to owe a 1099 to this vendor. I just feel constrained by having only one checkbox. I need to have three. Yes, I owe them a 1099. No, I do not owe them a 1099, or research is needed. Then make it a required field. Like, check one of these three boxes. But until that happens, I don't rely that this is correctly checked or unchecked for each client, for each vendor. So I just don't use it at all. Once we went and we typed in this address and we update the vendor, and then now this pops up in the vendor address. Terms due upon receipt. And then on the invoice, it was number 1000. This is going to be legal expenses, which not really, this is client expenses, but that's not one of my options. I have to create a whole new general ledger account. We'll talk about that in a future video. Medical records. And it's 7565. And then we hit submit. And now this is always sorted in date order. So it pops up at the bottom of the list. Because if you'll notice, these are 22, 23, 25. And by default, it comes up as unpaid because it's an unpaid bill. That was the whole point of this section. You have the ability to import multiple bills. I find if you're doing probably 10 or less, it's just easier to do a single data entry. If you're doing more than 10 at one time, then you'll want to use these step-by-step instructions, download this template, enter the information into the CSV file, and then upload the file in here, and then click submit. Once you do that, it'll read the file and it'll pop up all this information in here. It's the difference between how fast will it take you to tab through these fields versus the same information being typed into a CSV file. Like I said, my break even's about 10. If I'm just doing 10 invoices, I'm just going to tab through here and get them added. If I'm entering more than 10, then I'm probably going to do the CSV file. Where I run into problems with the CSV file is existing vendor names, getting them named exactly how they are already on file. If you mistypes a vendor's name, then it doesn't know how to match that. And I find the people that use this on a daily or a weekly basis, you figure out pretty quickly what you're more comfortable doing. So it's up to you how you handle that. And that's everything that we wanted to talk about today on the bill screen. If this was interesting for you, then come back and check us out next Monday where we're going to talk about client expenses. Thanks. Have a great afternoon.